hurry, people. Book 3, chapters 1 to 3. We are near the end of this novel and discussing it. And I always get a little sad about this because we start off understanding that Winston has always known that this was going to happen. Sort of a fatalistic idea of himself. Like he knew he would go to the end and he'd die for Big Brother and he was an enemy of the party. So it's his fatalism, right? We see the place where there is no darkness. That was foreshadowed in his first dream when he heard O'Brien say that to him. So again, it's a representation. He's in a bright cell and the place where there is no darkness. And the people he's in the holding cell with represent the sections of his life or his marker points in life. The parole woman who could have been his mother because they shared a surname, but he wouldn't have known because he ran away from his mother when he was a child. And it's sort of kind of like a sad coincidence or on purpose because nothing is really done by coincidence with the party. And then he's with Ampleforth, his co-worker, and he's also with Parsons, his neighbor, who, remember, was so proud of his children's character in the beginning and that they're going to be great members of the Thought Police, and they turned him in. So much like what Winston was discussing earlier, that he's angry with the party and the way they've messed up his thinking to think that his own parents could be they make children believe that their own parents could be enemies and that they should be loyal to the government over their parents. And this happens a lot all over the world. I hope you look it up because I can't give you all the examples of when governments go take children to re-education camps to go against what their parents have taught them. As a parent, this is like my largest fear in life, that my children fall to propaganda and just like go completely the opposite of everything that I've taught them in life. This is what happens when you become a parent and you have other people to think about. But that's a slightly off tangent. So when he's there, he wishes for death. He hopes someone will slip him a razor and like he can just commit suicide and not give Big Brother any information, not give them the satisfaction, right? And when he sees O'Brien, he's like, they got you too. Like he feels sort of like that connection to him. Because remember, he's always kind of placed this weird sort of obsession and love and appreciation for O'Brien and this ideal that he made of O'Brien in his head that carries all his hope and longing. And O'Brien's just like, yeah, they caught me. They've had me for a long time. And it sort of confirms that he's always been working for the party, and Winston just fell for the bait and was the easy kill to take. And you have to remember the Ministry of Love, okay? Did I write that? O'Brien and the Ministry of Love. Let's not forget the Ministry of Truth represents lies. The Ministry of Love does not represent love. Just don't forget that. The Ministry of Love represents the opposite of it, which is basically torture and hate and everything opposite of love. And that's where he is. And initially he thinks that O'Brien was also taken with him, but instead they discuss the way the party gets rid of enemies. And they've perfected this way of dealing with the government's enemies. And that is to ensure they aren't allowed to be martyrs. And if you know what a martyr is, it's when someone dies for a just cause depending on your view of things. So I know suicide bombers can be looked at as martyrs, or for a cause. For assisted suicide, there can be someone who died suffering. And I know what happened here in Canada. That's why I'm using it as an example, where that person could have been used as a martyr and sort of this ideal held up like for other generations to push for the fight to change these things. And that's what's happened. But usually martyrs are used more so in war-torn countries and for political protests. So in order to ensure that didn't happen to the party's enemies, they would take those figures, those agitators, those people who went against the party, and break them not necessarily physically break them, but here break them so that they would be shells of themselves. And we saw the foreshadowing of this when Winston saw the initial founding members of the party in the Chestnut Cafe, where all the people who were known enemies or not in well with the party, where they congregated. So he saw that person, I think it was Rutherford, I could be wrong, I feel like I'm wrong about this, but that person, the initial first member of the founding member of the party, was there, and he saw him crying. So that's the foreshadowing of what will happen to Winston by the end of this whole Ministry of Love situation and torturing. So that's the parties, that's what they do. They just crush the person from the inside so that they have no need to ever think that they could lead anything, to think that they are even in control of themselves. They make these people who go against the party shells of themselves, literal shells of themselves, missing most of their memories, most of their feelings, most of all of their knowledge, because they've been psychologically broken here. So they have no need to push forward, and they walk among society as if they were never anything, right? So that's their way of keeping people in check, especially people who go against the party. And it's very common in 2019 for this to happen in a lot of parts of the world. So I urge you to make those connections. I don't want to make those particular connections for you because your lens will be different from my lens. And I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm here to try and spark that want for knowledge and to think on your own and use the critical thinking skills that I'm trying to show you, and read between the lines and make those connections. Okay? So at one point during the torturing, this is an important part to remember, O'Brien recognizes that Winston's love for Julia is what's pushing him to be so strong during the torturing, and he's not breaking. And Winston feels like almost, joy at the fact that he's been able to keep this pact or this promise to Julia. Okay, and then the physical pain that affects a human mind is the theme that Orwell wants to explore here. If you can physically hurt someone enough for them to submit, that's an important theme. Just the idea that the thought of the pain, because if you've inflicted enough pain and made them feel pain enough, the thought of the pain could actually be enough to make a person not use their common sense, okay? And like their natural human qualities. And I believe we can take it a step further and include mental torture, which we know today can affect people the same way as physical pain. So if you put that idea in their head, that mental torture, we've seen in the way detainees are tortured all over the world, depending on who's fighting what war. And that can also be added into this. I think it was less predominant back when Orwell was writing this, but it's more predominant now than actual physical pain. We're on to the last one.